welcome to Presently Presents.
I think I get a bit ahead of myself. Like when I'm in a position or when I'm doing something, I always feel like, what next? What next? What next? What next? Is this, how long is this going to last for? The longevity? Then what am I going to do? You know? And I feel like sometimes you should just be in the moment and be present.
Yeah.
So I think like those moments are quite hard. But the hardest thing about presenting is you may have the talent, but if you're not in the right place at the right time,
oh my God, so much.
Then you're not going to get it. I feel like nothing's impossible. If you really want something, you'll do it. There's always a way. You just got to get outside your comfort zone. But that's the thing. When you get outside your comfort zone, that's when you're going to flourish the most.
Hello and welcome to Presently Presents. I'm Esme. I'm a guest host for the podcast and also a member of Presently. So before we start, a quick word about today's sponsor, which is Made in Kent Radio. So they're giving people the opportunity to record a professional radio demo for people who are brand new to the industry, as well as offering the chance for those who train with them to present a 1-hour show on the station. It's a really cool opportunity, and some cover presenting shifts as well. They have an exclusive discount for Presently members, which is very kind of them. The discount code is PRES10, so PRES10. So if you head to madeinkentradio.co.uk, you can get some more information about how to sign up for that. So today's Presently Presents guest is a radio and TV presenter who currently hosts the official Asian chart show on BBC Asian Network and presents the Sky Arts show Unmuted and Desi Beat on Colours TV Sky. Her first break in radio came at her hometown station Asian Star 101.6 FM before progressing to West London's West Side Radio, where she hosted the West Side chart show. On TV, Nayha has interviewed many high-profile celebrities and artists, starting out at the online channel Media Spotlight UK. Nayha has interviewed artists such as Sean Paul, Shaggy and Christina Milian. She also interviewed many personalities, including Sarah Pascoe, Russell Kane, Seal and Ella Eyre. Nayha's credits also include coverage of the ITV Gala, National TV Awards, and so much other stuff which we'll get into during this episode. So today's Presently Presents guest is Nayha.
Woo! Do you know, it's really funny actually sitting here as a presenter, hearing someone talk about what you do as well, because you kind of forget half the stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean when people say to you like, oh, so what have you done? And you're like, stuff, I don't know, or what have I done?
I don't know where to start. And also, who's the most famous person you've met? I can never answer that.
You've met a lot of famous people, which we'll come on to in a bit, because you've done quite a lot of interviewing. But let's go back to basics. Old school Nayha. Where did you start off? I said about the Asian Star 101. Is that in London or is it outside London?
So it's actually based in Slough, so it's outside of London. But I actually started off on a radio station called Hayes FM in a church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because how I started was I went to do some beauty pageants when I finished uni. Actually, it was during uni. I did a few beauty pageants because I thought it'll help with what I want to do, because sometimes the winners get, I don't know, contracts for certain things, and just to get your name out there. I was never into like doing beauty pageants. I wasn't like the skinniest girl in the world either. But I just thought, let me just give it a go. Let me try it.
And you're beautiful as well, Nayha.
Oh,
amazing hair. You've got the vibe.
Yeah. But literally, I graduated in acting, and I didn't actually want to be a presenter. I wanted to be an actor. That was always the goal, always the dream. In primary school, secondary school, it was always known I wanted to be the actor. And my parents were actually fine with it as long as I didn't go into Bollywood. I was like, they're like,
don't like Bollywood.
Don't do Bollywood. Just don't do
Hollywood only. They had high expectations.
Really high expectations. So that's why I did a beauty pageant. I did Miss India. And I managed to get down to the final 10. And the winner gets to basically win a acting contract in Bollywood, but it's fine.
Right.
But it's like a really big acting contract. So I thought, right, I'm going to do it. Though the funny thing is, I did Miss India, but I'm actually Pakistani.
I was going to say you're Pakistani, aren't you? I know that. And I was thinking, like, India? Am I misunderstanding? But also, why is a beauty pageant handing out acting contracts?
Because it's Miss India. Like for example, like Miss England, Miss India, they just try and push people into creative industries. Maybe they have a certain look or whatever it is. But I think with Miss India, it was more about dancing, acting, part of your performance that you do, your talent round, for example. So I think that's why. And then also beauty pageants are quite a big thing in India when getting into acting. Anyone who wins becomes a Bollywood actress, really.
They quite like the looks, I guess, of
and they can dance, they can act, they can do
all rounders.
Everything.
Yeah,
exactly. So I entered that, even though I'm Pakistani, but obviously they found out towards the end, hence why I didn't get any further.
Oh no, they cut you out.
I got like to the top 5 and then that was it.
Oh, bless
and then but Hayes FM found it really interesting that I am a local girl and I've done quite a few beauty pageants. So they interviewed me at like 7 o'clock in the morning. They were like, wow, you've got so much energy. Why don't you come on and think about doing radio presenting? And I've always loved music. So that's how I started becoming a weather girl, travel, had my own show, and then properly had my own show at the Slough radio station, Asian Star.
I thought you forgot the name of it. So was that Hayes one, was that voluntary or was that like a paid job?
No, everything was always voluntary up until the point I left Vibe FM in Watford.
Do you think voluntary is quite important, really?
100%, because if you've got no experience, no one's going to pay you to take a chance and risk taking you on without experience, unless you go and create your own content, then that is your experience. But to get proper radio experience, running a desk, going in there, working with producers, knowing how to put a show together and actually going live on radio, it's got to be voluntary. Yeah,
I was going to say the only time I can think of it's sort of people kind of cut out the voluntary stuff is when they're like kind of TikTokers or YouTubers and they kind of get it given to them in that way, I suppose. But then they are making content and people get used to their voices and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
So how did you, that was all your kind of radio side. We'll talk about, your current radio job in a bit, but how did you get into the more on camera side?
So do you know what? I looked at my old showreel the other day and it was so crazy.
Oh, I bet it's not. I bet it's not as bad as you think.
Like I literally went down Slough High Street, which by the way is on Crime Watch quite a lot. And
was it an episode of Crime Watch?
No, it wasn't actually. Otherwise, that would have been a great credit for my presenting career, to be fair. But I jumped on an ice cream truck and I was like interviewing people and I was like giving out ice creams. I don't know what I was doing. I dressed up as a clown and ran down like the observatory in Slough. If anyone knows, they know. And I was like high-fiving little kids just to get into like kids presenting and honestly, just to create content to make a showreel. So I started doing that sort of stuff. And then I started applying on Star Now. Mm-hmm. That's what I did at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Photographers and also videographers wanted to work with people for free and, just a collaboration type thing. So that was a really good opportunity to get some footage. And then ages ago, I was stalking Joel, who owns Media Spotlight UK, and I kept seeing he was interviewing all these cool people at all these events. So I was constantly messaging him. I actually messaged him on Facebook.
Oh, that's so retro.
That was so retro, so vintage, wearing the vintage shirt. Love it.
Yeah,
vintage.
Look at that.
But yeah, so then I messaged him on there and I was constantly messaging him. And he got me to do a shoot with Paigey Cakey. I was doing an office job at that time in recruitment. And I remember going in my office dress. Like, I would never do that now, but it was quite a loud one. And I remember interviewing Paigey Cakey as my first ever interview on his YouTube channel. And then slowly, it just snowballed from that. And I just kept getting more footage. And then, managed to get onto TV from after all that experience.
That's so amazing, isn't it? It's so interesting to hear how people, because everyone's got such a different route. Some people take years, some people take, like, honestly, they just get a really lucky break quite early on. What would you say has been your career highlights so far, if you can pick some?
That's really difficult. It's the same as like, what's the most famous person you've met? I think when you're talking about yourself specifically, it's really difficult to think about what would you say a career highlight. Obviously getting the job at the BBC was amazing because I've worked on community radio for about 5 years and I've worked for free for a very long time, if not more than 5 years. And, trying to get that break, demoing with so many different stations and to get that job during such a difficult time during COVID.
Yeah, I remember it was COVID time, wasn't it? Yeah.
After just doing one pilot with the station.
Wow.
I was really happy and proud of that. So, and I got such a big show as well, which I didn't even pilot for, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Okay, go on then. So let's talk about so you were at West Side at the time, weren't you? And you were working for, what was that radio station you used to work for, the sort of business?
Vibe FM.
No, the businessy one.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
What were they called?
So that was Aspen Wait Radio.
Aspen Wait. So they're like a business radio, aren't they? And you were doing stuff from home for them, I remember.
Yeah, I was doing stuff from home for them during the lockdown period, which was great because it gave me a chance to save so much money, which was great. So I did that, which was brilliant. I think I did it for about 6 months, but then I got offered the job at Asian Network. So obviously I was
of course.
gonna take that one. But previously to that, I was actually spent most of my time at Vibe FM in Watford.
Yeah. Okay. So what was Okay, so you wanted to get onto Asian Network. What was your route onto that? Obviously, you don't have to like say the exact, how it all went down. But in terms of like, did you just reach out to people? Was it through an agent? Like, how did it work?
I'm going to tell you exactly how it was, because I feel like
nice.
not enough people talk about it.
Perfect.
And
Love that.
you don't really know how to get into things and how things done. And like by me saying it, it's not gonna. It doesn't make a difference if I'm sharing gems, and other people can go and do it. So Asian Network, I demoed with them in 2015, ages ago.
And was that from emailing them or?
Yes, so drop them an email. Hi, my name's Nayha. I'm a radio presenter. This is what I do. Here's my crap showreel from 2015. And all of that sort of stuff. I literally chucked everything at them. Pictures, showreel, and a radio demo. Obviously, radio demo is what's important. But at that time, I thought chuck everything at it. Anyway, I got called in because I was seen at Asian events, hosting, red carpets. I was out and about, so they knew I was.
You were making a name in the right circles.
In the right circles, and I remember going in for a demo. Long story short, it wasn't very good, and it is what it is. It wasn't very good because I didn't sound very BBC. I sounded very commercial, very high energy, very fast paced, very crunch and rolls. At that time, and the director at the time was like, potentially you should look at places like Capital or Kiss. We think you'd really fit in well with that. It was really, really lovely.
Which is good feedback in its own way, isn't it, really? Because it means they can hear you on it might not have been what you wanted, but they can hear you on massive stations as well,
Absolutely. I mean, at that time, I just really wanted to get into radio. I really, whether it be Kiss, Capital, Asian Network, like I really wanted to get into radio at that time and just do what I love doing. I love Asian music, and I also love like English commercial music. So for me, either or would have been great. So I did pursue that, tried to do all of that. But at that time, he was like, you've got a really good voice. Your voice sounds great, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you come in to do a demo for a voiceover?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, why not? Might as well. I've never done one before at that point. I was like, I don't even have a clue what
you got to fake it till you make it.
Literally had no experience, but because I was in the right circles, I was networking, and an opportunity that was a no turned into something else. So I ended up being the voice of Asian Network.
Wow.
I ended up doing all the jingles. So, a bit naughty, but I sometimes hear my voice still, even though they're not allowed to use it. I still hear this is BBC Asian Network. So I did the voiceovers for about 5 years. So they knew me.
Right. So you were really like in there at that point in that way, because they all knew who you were.
Yeah, but I wasn't in that much. I'd only go in the evening to record the voiceovers. Right. I wouldn't see anyone. I'd never meet the directors. I never had contact with them. So really, it's just the sound guys. And they're not going to be like, she's really good, get her in, because it's not their place, not their position to do that.
Yeah.
They can give an opinion, but it won't mean as much as me meeting a director. So
yeah, it was kind of like a toe in the door rather than like a whole foot. Kind of.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'd even say not even a full toe, like just the nail. Like literally just the nail, that's it.
Grim.
So after that, demoing loads of stations, covered shows on Kiss, covered shows on Capital during that period since, did the Kiss Chosen one, got through to the finals.
Wow.
So lots of good stuff happened in between, gained more experience, started the West Side Chart Show, which was great, then went on to Vibe FM, and then I was still in the process chatting to a few people, other stations, and then Asian Network slid into my DMs on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really unusual, isn't it? I feel like
I was always going to message them anyway at some point, but this is like just before the lockdown. So I didn't really do anything then, as in approach them just yet. I'd been invited onto someone's show at the Asian Network, the group chat with Poppy, who's an incredible presenter who does the Brown Girls Do It Too podcast. So I went onto her show a few times, which was good. So my name was kind of getting out there, whatever. But before that, they did slide into my DMs and say, hey, would you be open to coming in for a pilot?
So what were they asking you to pilot for at this point?
I didn't have a clue. I just said, yeah.
I mean, why not? So they just said pilot generically. So I mean, do you think they knew that they wanted you for the chart show, but they just didn't want to tell you that and get your hopes up, or were they looking for something else?
No. There's always a specific show that you pilot for.
Right.
So just typical daytime, just daytime show.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anybody was leaving. Nothing was confirmed. It was literally just a generic daytime script, just for a daytime show. Okay. And now the daytime schedules have changed, like 2 years after. So I piloted for one of those shows that have changed only now.
Okay.
But it wasn't specifically for that show. It was just a generic pilot, right? So I go in there, I did my thing, listened back to the demo. Like at the time I thought, yeah, it sounded really good. But listening back now compared to how I am on the show now, I'm like, that is awful.
But you've got all like so much more experience now.
Yeah, I think there's a big jump between getting onto commercial, like actually getting onto a station versus doing community. Like there's a massive change in how you are. Anyway, so I did the pilot, and then I got told over lockdown I got the job, but literally I got slid into my DMs.
That's amazing. That's such a, especially if you were thinking about messaging them anyway and you'd already had that sort of history with them, like that must feel really good to not have to do the chasing for once almost. I mean, you did a bit of chasing back in the day, but at that time...
A lot of chasing, not a bit. Esme, I was a stalker, and not a little bit. Like every
turning
single...
up at their houses, knocking on their door at 2 a.m.
Yeah, like every single managing editor of all the stations at Global, at Bauer, whatever it was, I was on them, I was at them, I was emailing them regularly, constantly. Yeah. So it got to a point when I got approached, I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you're like,
but it makes you think how important your Instagram is.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. Do you think social media and how you come across on social media is very, very important then?
100%, because some people may make a judgment of you based upon just what you post on your stories and just what your Instagram page is. You know, I could be the biggest football fan in the world, but if I'm not posting pictures in a Man U top or a Liverpool top, then apparently I'm not a football fan, and I don't know much about it. You know?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? What people perceive. Do you know what? I did a job once years ago, and they were making a sort of squad of presenters. There was 4 of us that got picked. But they said that when they were doing the casting process, because they interviewed or auditioned quite a lot of us, they would check everyone's Instagrams and social media to see if anything done, because it was for kids stuff.
Oh,
they wanted to make sure you weren't like posting pictures of you getting drunk every weekend and like smashed on nights out. So they looked on everyone's social media, and they found a girl who they really liked, and they went on her profile, and just the nature of what it was very, very children. It was for kids, so it was very like, this girl had a lot of pictures of her apparently sort of in bikinis, which isn't a bad thing, but it was like bikinis with drinks. It was very party vibes, like her whole feed. And it's like, it's not like you can't be in a bikini. Obviously, everyone wears swimming costumes. It was more just the vibe of the type of bikini she was wearing. I think it was quite obvious that she did
sexualized.
Yeah, it was quite sexualized. It was quite modelly. And they said that they just looked at it and they thought, absolutely, we can't associate that with the brand because it will look like we endorse it. So it is really important to think. And I've since then... I mean, I was always pretty careful of it, but I think of every post I put on, every story I put on, I think if someone was going to see this from any job, would they be happy with it? I think that's how you have to think, especially if you've got a public profile anyway.
100%. Absolutely. It's really important to do that. So Instagram's really important because I got approached on Instagram.
It's amazing that. I also think as well, people who have private Instagrams but are pursuing presenting, I always think like, that's you're missing a whole opportunity, don't you think? When people have like when I see people who like message me, they're like, oh, I'm a presenter or whatever, and I want to get into this, and I look on their profile and it's like private, or there's not one thing about them being it says presenter in their bio, but it's just pictures of them and their mates. And I'm like, I like, what are you doing? Like, are you a presenter? What are you working on? Like, and I want to like have that instant look, don't you think?
100%, absolutely. I still need to go back and delete some of my really, really old pictures still. I still haven't done that. It just takes such a long time. Yeah, it does. Such a long time.
Yeah, it does. So what would you say is the hardest thing about being a presenter?
The hardest thing for me, I think, is the unknown. I feel like
freelancing sort of aspect of it, or
a little bit, and it's just the unknown. I sometimes think I get a bit ahead of myself, like when I'm in a position or when I'm doing something. I always feel like, what next? What next? What next? What next? Is this, how long is this going to last for? The longevity? Then what am I going to do? You know? And I feel like sometimes you should just be in the moment and be present. Yeah. So I think like those moments are quite hard. But the hardest thing about presenting is you may have the talent, but if you're not in the right place at the right time,
oh my God, so much,
then you're not going to get it. That's the hard bit.
Crazy,
like
isn't it?
How do we know where the right place is? How do we know when the right time is? You know?
Yeah.
Do we constantly hound? So it's just those type of things. Because it could be that, you know, this massive TV show is literally looking for someone just like me, but I've messaged or contact too late, too early.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so funny, isn't it? Because I've had times before where I haven't messaged a particular show in a while, and they weren't casting when I was messaging them, and then I remember one time I was thinking to myself, oh, I haven't messaged them in a while, it's been like 6 months or whatever, it's been a while, and I thought about doing it, and that week or so they'd announced the new presenter, and I remember messaging being like, hi, I've just seen you've cast, where did you find this presenter, like how did you go about it? And they were like, oh, we just went through the emails who'd emailed us recently, and like the ones we liked, we got them in for an audition. And I was like, I wasn't on their list, I wasn't in that space. So it's really tough, isn't it? Because you don't know what would you say the balance is actually? I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, the balance between like messaging too much, not enough. Do you find that quite a hard balance to strike between like not pestering people?
No, I don't, because I come from a sales background, which obviously anyway. So I come from a sales background. So, there's kind of like a few touch points that you have to do before any results come through anyway. And I'm a bit shameful like that. I don't care if people think I'm annoying. Actually, there's this guy actually that he's quite well known in sort of the radio world, Jay Harrison. He's got his own sort of like radio company called Disruptive.
Yes,
he just posted something on his story literally this morning, and I was listening to it. I didn't watch the whole reel because I was running late for this. But, I watched half of it, but it's like he was just talking about how he never replies back to the first email that someone sends him. He never replies back, because if you really want it, he'll expect you to email quite a few times.
That's so interesting.
And that's someone who demoed me at KISS. That's someone who has been at that position, has been a decision maker, who's quite senior in his role, has said that.
That's so interesting. It's almost like mind games at this point, isn't it? They're like waiting to see how much you want it. That's so interesting. I would never have thought, because I would have thought like if I emailed once and they just don't reply, I'd think, well, they looked at it and they didn't like it or whatever. I mean, no. I'm always a multiple I don't just email once and then leave it. I would always,
because I go to events and things, and then people network with me and want advice, and I am always out there to help them. But I'll be honest, when they email me first, it's not because I don't think they want it. I read it and think, oh, I'm definitely going to reply back, but then I get busy and I forget. But if they email me again, I will have a responsibility to make sure I email back, think about it more. So I'm not rude.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's important.
Yeah. So you mentioned about being in sales. Are you still working in any sort of non-presenting roles at the moment? Because I know
absolutely
you were for a while, weren't you? You working part-time in, was it recruitment?
I'm still doing it.
How is that?
Do you think I am going to get the house of my dreams, the wedding of my life, wear nice clothes with just a show one day a week? Okay, I'm doing loads of hosting gigs, but that still ain't enough money for me, and then like TV jobs as well. TV is seasonal, quarterly, I need constant money. And I feel like once you've, like, I'm going to have to, I'm in that weird position where I should let go of it now, but because my company are so flexible.
Yeah, why not keep it?
Why not? And their offices are over there. Literally, I can see them from my window, my bedroom window. So
you've got a perfect setup then.
2-minute walk from my house. Also known them for like 10 years, because they used to work for a company I worked with before uni or whatever. They're lovely people. If I have any audition or anything that I need to go for, or any hosting gig, they just let me go. That
is a lucky setup.
I am very lucky, touch wood.
I mean, I've thought about this in the past, because I just work freelance as a presenter. I don't do anything else.
I rate you completely.
Well, I suffer for it as a result. Obviously, you're going to be like, you're going to miss out financially on things and whatever. Like, I'm not going to be getting a house when my friends are and all this sort of thing. But for me, it's just it's that pressure of like, if I got a full-time job or a part-time job, is it going to be as flexible? But it sounds like you've got what I would love is that kind of super flexible. It's almost quite unheard of, I think, in a way, to have such a lucky.
Yeah. But the caveat that is, I have to perform well there. So the pressure is high. So I work in sales, so I need to hit my targets every month. I need to be making calls in the evening, on the weekends when people aren't doing the recruitment stuff, making offers, helping people. But it's getting to that awkward stage where I'm speaking to candidates and they recognize me and they hear my voice and they've heard of me, they listen to me on the radio, they've seen me on the TV. So it's getting to that awkward point where the conversations aren't about their career, they're asking me and it's like, I have to lie sometimes.
It must be quite confusing for them as well, because they're like, why is this girl, why do I know this voice? And it's like confusing for them, but also but it's good to hear actually from your side, because I know I sometimes think there's a kind of unspoken
100%,
what's the word,
it's a taboo, like not taboo,
it's almost like a judgment that people sometimes have if you're not working, do you know what I mean, like exclusively freelance.
People might think, oh, you must not be that successful if you have to do a office job as well. But it just means I burn both candles at both ends. Yeah, I do. The candle at both ends, sorry. And also I probably don't get a day off really. But I'm okay with that because I'm young, and now's the time to do all of this stuff while you're young, to work hard, to put all the effort in. You know, I don't have kids or anything like that. So now is the time that I can work all hours of the day and put all the effort in. And I'm used to it now. I've done it for years and I'm fine. I might get the odd time month where I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Normally that time of month, but most of the time I'm good.
We all have those days. I have them hourly. I think I have those moments. But I think it's good to know for someone who is successful like yourself, doing like a BBC radio show, but they still work in sales outside of that. And I think that's really important to show both sides, because I think people don't necessarily talk about the sales bit, but they don't talk about the office job. And actually, it's really important.
Many people have side hustles. It's a joke. I tell you, in that BBC building, there's so many people that have side hustles. They do something else alongside it, just to boost up their income.
I mean, why not? So I want to talk about agents, because you've had a couple of agents over the time.
Yes.
And who are you with currently?
Westside Talent and Night Elton. So
you've got two. What are they? Do they do different things?
Yeah, one's for radio, one's for TV.
Right. Okay. So how do you find agencies? Like, do you think they're really important for people? Do you think they're kind of a must or not really?
It's a hard one. If you want to get into TV, an agent is a must. It's a must. Unless you have a random break, you're working in an institution in another role and you've worked your way up, you've networked, you know the people, that type of thing. Like me on Asia Network, I didn't have an agent at that point, by the way. I got into Asia Network myself, but my agent helped just push it over the line. You know, unless you've got that set up, I just don't think an agent is important for sort of radio and hosting events and things like that. But I think for TV, you need an agent.
Have you found that having an agent's got you indoors with TV? Because I know you and I both worked on Sky Arts on the other art show together. We both present on the same show, but then that's a bit of a different beast, isn't it? Because that doesn't go through agencies. That goes through knowing the guy who runs it and kind of hassling the poor bloke until he lets you on, effectively, which is what you did, what I did.
Like, you did.
We both hassled the man, poor Bob.
Of course,
love him. But we both got onto that show from that. So that's quite a unique thing, don't you think? I mean, that's not common. But in terms of like other TV stuff, do you find that you've got into the doors for things with your agency?
No, not as of yet. But my new agent for TV, because I've only just recently got him.
Yeah, it's quite new.
They're more like, they have set up loads of meetings.
Oh, wow.
With big, big people at Channel 4.
Fantastic.
The BBC. I've actually physically had the meetings already.
Amazing.
It's just TV's a very slow burner if you are not known.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
I am a BBC presenter, fabulous. And I have got loads of TV experience, loads of online camera experience. However, I am not known on these 4 big channels, right? They don't know me. So how do I get in front of them, right? Well, we're setting up meetings, but how do I get shows? There's so many presenters out there.
Oh my God, many.
You have to slowly do VTs, like on small different shows before you actually get a big break. Do
you know what? I can't remember where I saw it now. I'm trying to think. I heard someone, whether it was on a podcast or something, I heard someone talking about this. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, when you think about the BBC, you think, well, because she's on BBC Asia Network, that she's in the BBC, it's one company, they'll all know her. But it's like, someone was saying, it's like the amount of different like groups within that they don't even know what's going on in the office next to them, let alone across the different like radio and TV and stuff like that. And you think in your head, you're like, oh, it's BBC, so you work for the BBC, you can present for the BBC, blah, blah, blah. But it's just not like that, is it? It's like, Country File know their Country File team. The One Show knows the One Show team with the BBC anyway. But it's weird, isn't it? Because it's so big. You forget how big these organisations are.
Yeah, they're massive, exactly. And, I feel like with agents, the agents have got me the meetings I would never have got.
Yeah.
So I definitely think for TV, an agent is really important. I feel for radio, I think once you've got the big job on radio, then you should get an agent, which you'll probably think, well, why? The agent should be getting you the job on radio. Oh, no. You can get a job. You can get a job on radio without an agent, 100%. I mean, everything I've ever done on radio, I did it without an agent. However, my agent did help me, not being signed to him, but just as a nice person and someone who wanted me to do well. He's helped me throughout my whole career with radio. But I felt like I owed it to him to sign with him, especially when I got the job on Asia Network. He helped me push it through the line because he ultimately is the one that's helped me throughout. But I feel like you don't need an agent for radio.
No, I agree. And I think, I mean, even me, I have a couple of agencies that are kind of more on the sort of online corporate space than TV or radio, but both of them, well, I've demoed at Heart a few times, and that's always been through, I mean, the first time they found me, a bit like you, with you. I mean, it wasn't through Instagram DMs, but it was a bit like that. It was like, we found you online, do you want to come in? And it was like that kind of thing. I think actually they do find you, but yeah, you're right. They don't have that. I think radio doesn't have that snobbery around you having to be known and you having to be famous. They just kind of, if you've got a good voice and they like how your personality is, they'll get you on. But I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't think it's all about being famous, whereas I think TV, because it's the face, isn't it?
It depends really, because I look at Radio 1 and I think they've got sort of a couple of tiers of what they look for. They look for a celebrity because it's Radio 1, and I feel like they look for the established presenter, you know, like the Jordan North, the Vic Hopes, the ones that have sort of loads of followers as well, that are kind of established, and then they have the up and coming, really sort of junior. I feel like I've gone past that up and coming,
yeah, for sure,
really junior, and now I'm kind of like in the middle, you know, somewhere
in the limbo.
In the limbo, yeah.
So I know this is a really tough question because it's like no 2 days are the same, but could you
don't ask me who's the most famous person I've met. I can't tell
That's
you.
That's not what I'm going to ask. You're safe. I was going to ask an even more annoying question is, what would an average day look like for you? So if someone's sort of early on in their presenting career and they're thinking about, I'm going to change this to working week, because because I think that will give you a bit more, it's a bit easier to talk about a week. So what would an average week look like for Nayha in terms of work stuff?
Okay, at the beginning, when I first got in, I was a receptionist. I used to sit at my desk at Honda, paint my nails, and I was literally on Star Now the whole day.
My nails. Wow, they must have loved you.
Always. Oh, they used to always let me. I was great at the reception desk. Hello, Honda. How can I help?
Oh, it's like having a built-in voiceover artist. There
you go. That's where I picked my skills. Honda receptionist desk. So I literally would on the computer, and I was on Start Now constantly. They all knew what I wanted to do. I was very vocal, very honest.
Yeah.
But I did my job to the best of the ability. If somebody wanted a coffee, I'd go and make one. But I'd be on Star Now. I'd be applying. I'd be stalking Star Now. I signed up to Mandy. I didn't feel like it was very useful, to be fair. And I literally would just keep applying for jobs constantly. There were loads of presenting jobs there. Anyone that was looking for a presenter or I'd contact videographers. I remember there were loads of videographers on there that wanted to do sort of shoots and things. So I'd email them to say, hey, should we do something together? Should we just go to the streets and record something? I got my own camera. I'd go to the streets on the weekends and do that. I'd be constantly on it.
Constantly on the Slough High Street in ice cream vans.
Yeah, we're dressed up as a clown or doing all sorts of things every weekend. There was always something I was trying to do, even if it was going to Carnaby Street. I'd always make sure I'd get my audio from my community radio station. I'd come home, I'd edit it, I'd put it on SoundCloud, or at that time, or I'd just try cut something and send it to people. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think in my early days, I was nowhere near as proactive as that, I think.
I was so proactive.
Yeah. But then, I think you had the trickiest start where you come from having nothing to show. I think
social media.
Yeah, my headphones falling out. I had that kind of backup that I had. I worked for local TV and I could make a showreel through that. And it was a little bit, but I'm so thankful now because I see people coming up and they're like making all this content. I'm thinking I just would be so rubbish at making content myself, like in terms of like straight off the bat. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially I wasn't taught all this stuff. I didn't do a degree in TV or production or anything like that, or radio broadcasting. I did a degree in acting. I was told how to learn a script, how to read a script, which I guess kind of helped, and how to be on stage and not be yourself. So
yeah, it's a bit different though, isn't it? What would you say your tips are for those who are like thinking, right, I'm listening to this now, I want to get into presenting, I've got absolutely, they're like, I'm like the bottom of the ladder, and they're thinking I want to start, but I have nothing experience wise, because I think it's really easy to say to people like, oh, take out your phone and go and film stuff in the streets. That's really daunting, don't you think?
It is, but if you're confident and you want it enough, you'll go and do it. That's the thing. I feel like nothing's impossible. If you really want something, you'll do it. There's always a way. You just got to get outside your comfort zone. But that's the thing. When you get outside your comfort zone, that's when you're going to flourish the most. I remember the first time I had to host a live event with like, I don't know, 500-600 people. I hadn't done it in about 4 years, and I was like shitting myself a bit deep down. We all get nervous. Come on, let's not lie. Of course, we all get a little bit nervous. But I knew, and I got asked to do it really last minute, and I said yes because I knew it'd be scary, and I knew I'd be nervous. But I also knew I believed in myself. I knew I'd smash it, and I did it, and I felt so good knowing that I actually did it. And you know, the thing is, you've got to get outside your comfort zone. So that's the biggest advice I would give, is that if there is something, you've got to just go out there and do it if it feels uncomfortable. So if you're passionate about something, so me, I love food, I love fashion, I love music, and I love talking about dating. Those things are like my things, right? So I would go in the streets and focus on that. Maybe go on the streets and ask people what they're wearing, where they shop, what they think about sustainable fashion, what can we do to kind of incorporate whatever it is. I'd go and ask them that. I'd start posting content on your Instagram and your TikTok about the things you're passionate about. Because you know what, you will end up getting, like, since I've really honed in on my fashion presenting, I'm getting so much fashion work now. It's snowballing.
That's interesting, yeah, because I think they see you at events, or they see you posting about the event, and they think, oh, that she does fashion, that's her thing. Yeah. Do you think sometimes, because my thing about the whole niche idea, because I have no niche, I have nothing that's like my specific thing. Maybe yet. My only thing is, do you ever like? Oh, but you love talking about fashion, so that's good. But do you ever worry that if you go down too niche a route, that you might only get called up for those things, or does that not bother you?
No. Yeah, I get what you mean, but the thing is, I've got 4, so I've just mentioned. So
you've got, you're quite broad.
I've got a few. But TV directors, if you're starting to get into TV, they don't want jack of all trades.
No,
you know, they've got so many people who are in pockets of specialism. So why are they going to get you? What, just because you're a nice person, or because you really want it? Like,
so true.
It's business at the end of the day, isn't it? And if they are like, do you love animals? I think did you say no? I'm confused.
I mean, I love animals, but I don't know if I've spoken to you about it.
Like, as in, like, I feel like you have.
Oh, I don't know.
No,
I think that's.
We all love animals, though.
We all do. Yeah, I think
we love animals, but not like it doesn't mean like it's.
But if someone loves that, they could.
They can, but then they would get somebody who's a vet to come on, etc.
Yeah.
They, you know, they wouldn't get somebody who's just, just someone like me and you. We love animals, but we're not specialists in it.
Yeah.
I have a cat. Doesn't mean they're going to get me on to be the specialist to talk about an animal topic.
Yeah.
So it is important.
It is tough, isn't it? I think it's really hard for people to find niches, but I do think people like shouldn't put too much pressure on them in necessarily in the early days in terms of just getting a showreel together, because you can be a bit general, learn the skills of actually presenting, and then think about that later.
Yeah, my showreel was very generic. I mean, ice cream van, dressed as a clown, like you name it, I did it.
So would you say you're good at networking? Because it sounds like a lot of your jobs come off the back of other jobs. Do you think you're quite a good networker? And do you think the sales stuff comes into that quite strongly?
I think the sales stuff comes into the fact that I can talk to anyone, and I'm not afraid to start conversations. Like yesterday, I hosted this a red carpet for this business event. I'm not very businessy, as I don't even dress businessy, but I was just making conversations with people about normal things. Like, you know, I wasn't talking about the weather or how is business going. You know, I was just like, oh, I love what you're wearing. You're looking forward to the food, like, you know, just normal stuff.
But that's what they want. They probably didn't want someone who's like, if it's a business event, they probably don't want it to be like exclusively about, but they kind of want that kind of light-hearted, fun side as well.
Yeah, but I feel like at an event, I won't go and ask what I want. I will make the conversation, and then afterwards I will go back and ask the question. But I think that's a good way of doing it, because I've seen people go straight to the people that they want something from and ask them directly. I mean, I big up to them for just saying, hi, I want a slot on your radio show. What do I need to do? Can I have your email address to send my demo to you? Like, straight to their face.
It's quite brash, isn't it, to go straight in?
It is. And I think it's a bit much.
Yeah.
But I think also you need a little bit of that cheekiness to be able to survive. But networking is really important. But I would just say read the room.
I think you'll
piss people off.
I think that's a really, really good bit of advice, actually, because I'm the same as you. Like, if I haven't been to that many networking events, but when I have, I try and chat to them for quite a while first, get a bit of a vibe where you feel like you're on a bit of a friendly term, and then you ask what you want. Otherwise, if you do come in straight away, they're going to be like, oh, for God's sake. Do you know what? Actually, that's a good point, because I once met a presenter. Do I want to name him? I think it's fine. I went to Nick Knowles. Do you know from DIY SOS?
Yeah.
So I met him at an event, and I went up to him and I said, I was, but bear in mind, this was about 6 years ago. I was only 19 and I wasn't doing much. I wasn't doing any presenting really. I was working for a TV company, doing a bit of presenting, but barely. I went up to him at an event and I said, "Hi, my name's Esme. I'm working as a weather presenter at a local TV channel. How like you're a presenter, you've been presenting for years. Like, what was your advice for someone who's just starting out like me?" And he was just really nasty about it at the start. I will back him up in a minute, but at the start he was a bit like, like he was sighing at me. He's like, "Oh, I don't know, it's really hard. Why do you want to do it? Like, honestly, get a show together and that's about it, really." And he kind of walked off, and I was like, oh my God, like, how rude. He then came up to me a bit later on in the night and he said, "Sorry, I was a bit blunt about that, but I have so many people who come up to me and say that sort of thing." And I think to myself, like, what are you doing in terms of getting on to being a presenter? And he said, "I don't mean it to be, it's a really tough industry. And I find it hard when people come straight up to me and that's the first thing they ask." Where, like, so then when we started speaking normally, he then started giving me advice as an actual person. Do you see what I mean?
So you got the answer to what I was basically saying.
I can't remember what he said in the end. It was like, this was 6 years ago. It wasn't, I can't remember what his advice was. But my point is, it's because I'd come straight up to him and that was the first thing I asked. That's what annoyed him. Whereas later on, I'm making him sound like a horrible person. He was nice. He was just busy and it was an event, and that's
people are direct.
Yeah, it was just he was just like, I've come straight up to him with this question. I think it was probably a bit annoying, which is so fair. But yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think that's really important. I've taken that with me in terms of meeting people down the line. I think it's good to chat a bit first.
Yeah, exactly.
So towards the end of this, I'd like to sort of ask. I said, again, you might not want to say, because I know some people keep their cards close to their chest. Is that but in terms of like dream shows or something you'd really love to do at this point, what would be on the sort of horizon for you?
Oh no, absolutely. I would love to host something like the X Factor. I'm talking
I'd love that.
I would love to host something like the X Factor. I would love to do a show like Glow Up. I would love to host something like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I would love to be the host on The One Show. I would love to be a host on This Morning, maybe in 10 years time. I would love to, like, there's so many things. I can see myself doing something big, and I feel like looking at small-ish shows, great, but I can see myself doing something big. And obviously I would love to do something to do with food or fashion. Like
I can imagine you doing some like massive ITV kind of like Saturday night type show. I think you've just got like the confidence, the voice, you've got everything that goes with that. Do you know what I mean? So that's interesting because obviously those are like massive shows. You obviously, and this is no disrespect to you, but you're not going to go straight into them straight away. No. So how do you see, like, what's your tips for someone who thinks, right, my end goal is massive? So where do you see the sort of stages? And I'm interested to hear it too, because I mean,
at the moment, obviously, I've just got a TV agent. So that's been, if they've set up loads of meetings, it's in my hands to come up with ideas and things that I want to put out there onto television. So I've got my thinking hat on now. So that's the sort of stuff we're doing behind the scenes. And it's just getting in front of these directors. And once I come up with a good idea, getting a VT and getting on a show to do like a little small VT and then another one. And then slowly people will know who I am. And then when opportunities come up for big shows, stand-ins or whatever it is, then potentially I'll be on that list already, because you do know all these TV stations have lists of people that they would regularly use and go to. So I just want to make sure that I get known and get onto that list. And hopefully
I love how driven you are. I love how driven you are. I like that how you're like, I can see myself doing that. And that's really important, I think, to have that kind of attitude. You
have
be
to
like,
back yourself.
Yeah, you really do. Because you can't be the sort of person who's like, oh, I mean, I'd love to get to that point, but I don't think it's going to happen. Like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. Like I've started, I think it's that whole thing about, I'm not into manifestation, I'm not going to lie. But in terms of like speaking things into the universe, and that whole thing of like talking it.
To do it.
Yeah, like the whole thing about when you first start off and saying, I'm a presenter. If you don't say you're a presenter, if you say, oh, I'm trying to be a presenter, that's what I used to say. But I'm trying to kind of be a presenter. I kind of do a bit of presenting, and then it sounds like you're not a presenter. Yeah. When I started saying, when people say, oh, what do you do for a job? Oh, I work as a presenter. They'd be like, oh, and then you kind of just saying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a massive point of being humble and down to earth. I am the biggest believer on that. Like, 100%. I will never be, no matter.
You're not going to be a dickhead about it.
No, even when I get onto the X Factor one day or whatever show, like big entertainment or big music show, I will never be a dickhead. No. But you have to be confident as well. You've
Yeah.
got to back yourself, and you've got to confidently say, hi, I'm Esme. I'm a TV and I'm a radio broadcaster. If you did Riverside, so if you want to get into radio. But yeah, I'm a TV broadcaster.
Yeah.
That is what I am. And a podcaster.
And like factual about it. Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
look them in the eye, Esme.
Yeah, frightening them. Can you imagine? This is not the tip to give me. Like, don't frighten.
I feel like we're doing like a TED talk today.
I know, it's been long. It's been nearly 45 minutes. Well, last question before I let you go. I'm going to let you off, and because you've got nice plans today, I think.
I do. It's my engagement, not my engagement. My engagement, my anniversary.
Anniversary, but you are engaged. Is that wedding coming up soon?
Next year.
Oh, exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing all the outfits and all the pics. I think it'll be amazing. So last question from me before we let you go. What advice would you give to the people who are starting out? Like, what would be your main piece of advice you would give to them?
I would say it's okay if you're interested in lots of little things. So like, I've got a friend who's a lot younger who's interested in dancing and acting and basically everything. That's fine. But I feel like if you know what you want to do, if you're one of those people that I really want to be a presenter, then focus on that. Don't do it. Don't waste your time doing everything. I did everything at the beginning. It was a waste of time. I met some contacts, great, but just focus on the presenting, and don't be afraid to create your own content now of something. But I would say try have a specialism.
I think that is
try
fantastic.
and have a specialism.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic advice, because I think Johnny Nelson on one of my previous episodes, I think he said similar on the lines of like, don't do like every job possible, because people think, well, they're not committed to one. Do you know what I mean? So
it's not even that. It's just easy for TV directors and even easy for people that are casting to not say no to you. It's easy for them to say yes to you, because why would someone say no to me about doing any fashion presenting? Unless they thought that was shit, then that's different. But if I've got the experience, I'm all right on camera, then why would they say no? They'll be like, all right, I've got so much experience in it. So, it's going to be a lot easier.
But I'm talking in terms of like, if you're saying you're a dancer, you're a singer, you're an actor, you're a presenter, that's what I mean in terms of like, if you're doing all of them, it's hard for someone to think of you. Do you see what I mean? Like if you're doing everything, you're going to present, you're going to someone as a presenter, but then you've got all your profiles about singing, they're going to be like, well, which one is it? Do you know what I mean? That's the 100%. Kind of thing. It's
100%, yeah.
Nayha, thank you so much. It's nice to catch up with you, just personally anyway. Nice to see you. And I think you've been given some wonderful advice. I'm hoping everyone has enjoyed listening, and I'll see you again on another episode. Bye.